Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is part 61 of SQL Server video series. In this video we will discuss about inserting large amount of random data into SQL Server tables for performance testing. In the next video session, we will use these large tables to test the performance of queries that uses joins and subquery. Let's flip to SQL Server Management Studio. There are three parts. There are three parts to the SQL scripts. The first part will actually check if the table exists, TBL products and TBL product sales. If the table exists, they will be dropped. And in the second part, we recreate those tables. And the final part, we will insert random sample data into those tables. Let's see how we are checking for the existence of those tables and dropping them. So to check the existence of table, I am using the system table. I am using the system table called information underscore schema dot table. Dot table system table. Let's see what this table contains. So let's execute this query. Select star from informations underscore schema dot tables. Now look at this. This query has returned me a list of table name. Where are these table presents? These tables are present in the sample database. Because we executed this query within the context of the this sample database, I got all the tables that are present within that sample database. And we are checking if the table name is product sales table. So do we have product sales table within that information underscore schema dot table? Yes, there is the TBL product sales table. And we are passing that to exist function. And we are passing that to exist function. This exist function will return true if the table exists. Otherwise, it is going to return false. So if this function returns true, that means the table is present. We want to drop it. So drop table product sales. So drop table product sales. Okay, so that will drop TBL product sales, and this query will drop TBL products table. And this query will drop TBL products table. So at the moment, look at this. We have TBL product sales table. And TBL products tables. Let me execute this query. So execute these queries. Command completed successfully. Now if I refresh this, we should not see those tables. We should not see those two tables. If I refresh this, so refresh it. So both the tables are gone. TBL products and TBL product sales table are not there. It is going to drop. So that is first step of the query. It check if the table exists, and if they do, it is going to drop them. The second part will actually recreate those tables. Create table products and create table TBL sales table. Okay. And the important thing to notice here is that product ID is the foreign key. Product ID is the foreign key. So this is referring. So this is referring the ID. So this is referring the ID column in TBL products table. Okay, so I'm going to create TBL products table and TBL product sales table. So execute this. And then this. Okay. So let's refresh this table folder. Here we should have those tables back. So refresh that. Okay, we got that tables. TBL products and TBL product sales table. Okay. So the third and final step is to actually insert sample data. So the third and final step is to actually insert sample data. Inserting sample data into this tables is very simple and straightforward. So if you look at TBL product table, it has got 3 columns. TBL's product tables, it has got 3 column. Within that, ID, name and descriptions. ID column is the identity column. So when we are creating this table, we told ID is an identity column, meaning when we insert a row into this TBL products, we don't have to supply a value for the identity column. We only need to supply values for name and description columns, which are of type and where care. Okay, so the name is going to be dynamically computed. So the name is going to be dynamically computed. So the name of the product, since this is a random data, I'm going to call my product as product 1, product 2, product 1000, etc. Similarly, product description is going to be product 1 description, product 2 description, etc. And how we are calculating the value for those names? For those names, look at that. I am doing this in, look at that. I am doing this in while loop. So while we declared a variable of type integer, at ID, and the ID is initialized to 1. And ID is initialized to 1. So while that ID is less than or equal to 10,000, which means we are going to loop through this 10,000 time. I'm going to insert 10,000 products into TBL products. I'm going to insert 10,000 products into TBR products table. So what we are doing, insert into TBR products values. So first we need to supply the value for name column. So this is the hard coded text. Product hyphen. And to that what we are doing, we are concatenating the ID value. We are concatenating the ID value. First one, the ID value will be 1. First one, the ID value will be 1. So 1, we are converting that to n var because ID is integer. Because ID is an integer variable. But since we are concatenating that, to another string, we need to typecast that to be of type nvarchar. Which is what we are doing here. So that will give me product, value for the name. Column, product 1, and this one will give me product 1 description. Which is going to be the value for description column. The same thing, product, that is the hard coded string. To that we are concatenating ID, which is going to be 1 to the first time, and then another hard coded string descriptions. So this is going to be the value this is going to be the value for description column. This is going to be the value for name column. And we have this insert statement. Inside this while loop. Okay, so it is going to run 10,000 times. And look at this, we are printing ID. This is for, tracking the progress when this query when this query is running. And finally, we are incrementing the value by 1. And finally, we are incrementing the value by 1. This is most important. Otherwise, the loop will never end. At some point of time, we want the ID to be 10,000 so that the loop can end. Otherwise, this will become a never-ending loop. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this query. And see what happens. So execute query. Look at the message. Completed. The query has completed successfully. So when we scroll down, you should see 10,000 rows. Okay. 9,998, 9,999, 10,000. So 10,000 rows have been inserted. Now let's select data and see if it is present. So select star from TBL products. So select star from TBL products. Press F5. Look at that. Here I get 10,000 rows. In the status bar, look at here, look at right corner bottom of the screen. I get 10,000 rows in the status bar, and look at the name, and look at the name and descriptions. Product 1 is the name, product 1 is the name, product 1 description is the description. Okay, so the next step is to actually insert random data into TBL product sales table. So the next step is to actually insert random data into TBL product sales table. Now this is a bit, I would not say it complex, because here we have 1, 2, 3 columns. So this TBL product sales table has again got total 4 columns. Within that, ID is again the identity column. So we don't have to supply a value for that, but whereas we have to supply values for product ID, unit price, and quantity sold columns. And if you remember, And if you remember, product ID is a foreign key. This value must match with one of the values that are present, in TBL products table for this ID column. So it has to match of it with that. So if you remember, within TBL products we have IDs between 1 and 10,000. Between 1 and 10,000. Okay, so when I insert a row into this TBL product sales table, product ID has to be a number between 1 and 10,000. Okay, unit price can be any random number. Unit price can be any number. Quantity sold can also be any random number. But then unit price and quantity sold, I'm going to have a random number between 1 and 10. But whereas product ID will be a random number between 1 and 10,000. It can't fall outside of those values. That is because it is a foreign key. That is because it is a foreign key. Okay, so to understand this all you have to do is, we are going to use again a while loop. Look at that. So while and I am going to insert 15,000 rows. I'm going to insert 15,000 rows because I might have sold one product maybe 10 times. It is possible, right? So we are going to have 15,000 rows within TBL product sales tables. Look at this again. Insert into TBL product sales. I have this random product ID, random unit price, and random quantity sold. Variables. So what are these? These are the variables. These are the variables. And what are these variables? We are using round and rand functions, random function, to generate a random product ID, random unit price, and random quantity sold. Okay, let's see how we are generating. And if you remember, we spoke about this, the product ID. The product ID should be a random number between 1 and 10,000, whereas unit price and quantity sold should be a random number between 1 and 10. Now let's see how to generate a random number using a random and round functions. And that is very simple to do. All you have to do is, how to use this rand and random function. We have spoken about these random and round functions in the previous session of this video series. Please check those if you have not watched them already. So first, let's see how to actually compute the values. Let's say I want you to write a script which will generate random numbers between a given range. For example, I want to generate a random number between 1 and 10. So I am going to declare I'm going to declare a variable of type integer. At ll lower limit, and I am going to set that to 1. Set that to 1. So my lower limit is going to be 1, and along the same line I am going to create another variable of type integer. So declare at upper limit. And that is going to be an integer. I want to set that, let's say, 5. Let's say I want to generate random number between 1 and 5. Okay, so I have created two variables of type integer. Initialize them to 1 and 5. So my lower limit is going to be 1 and upper limit is going to be 5. So how do I generate a random number between 1 and 5? So I am going to use the rand function for that. But then look at this, what is going to do. First, I am going to subtract from the I'm going to subtract from the upper limit the lower limit. Okay, and then I'm going to multiply that with rand function. Multiply that with rand function. Okay, so random function. Okay, let's execute this as it is. Okay, let's execute this entire code. Now if you look at this, I get a random numbers. Look at that, I execute. I get 0, 3.54, 1, 3, and 1. Zero. I don't want 0. I want a number between 1 and 5. So, but with this piece of code, I am getting number 1, 2, 3. 4. But I am not getting 5. And I am getting 0. So what I basically can do to this, add 1. Add 1. Okay, so now let's execute this. Execute all this together. Now execute all this together. Now I should always get a number between 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 3, 3, 3, 4, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2. But then I have decimal places. We will get rid of those decimal places in just a bit. So how to get rid of those decimal places? Use the round function. Use the round function. That is what the round function is for. So I am going to use round function. So which is the number I want to round? I want to round this number. Okay, whatever is written by this expression, I want to round that number. And how many decimal places I want? I want 0 decimal. I want 0 decimal places. That's it. So now let's execute this all together. Look at this. I get uh, 2, 1, 4, 4, 4, 2, 4, 4, 2, etc. Just to make sure that it is working, according to our expectation, let's put in a simple testing code for this. I want to quickly test this. So I'm going to use, a while loop. A while loop here, while let's say 1 is equal to 1. One is equal to 1. Just to convince you guys, it always generate numbers between 1 and 5. So while 1 is equal to 1, that means this condition will always be true. I'm creating a never-ending loop here. So while 1 is equal to 1, begin and end. Begin and end. So what do I want to do? I want to generate this random number. I want to generate this random number. I want to generate this random number in an infinite loop. Okay. So generate random number. So to hold that number, what I am going to do? I am going to declare a variable. So declare at rand of type integer. I'm going to say an integer. So let's take that variable. So I'm saying at random. So we are initializing this variable. So we are initializing this variable with whatever random number we get. And print that. So print that random number. So we can see it. So print that random number, and then what I am going to do, and then what I am going to say, I am going to use a if condition. I'm going to use a if condition. If that at random number is less than 1, so it cannot be less than 1. Number is less than 0, no, so it cannot be less than 1, because we want a random number between 1 and 5. Because we want a random number between 1 and 5, so it can't be less than 1. So if it is less than 1, or if that random number is greater than 5, or this or if that random number is greater than 5, that means our code is wrong. So what I am going to do here, I am going to have another begin and end. Another begin and end. I'm going to print saying error, print saying error, and we want to see what is the number that is generated. So I'm going to okay. So anytime if it is coming to this, you know, if it is coming to this, you know, if block, we know that that number is less than 1. That number is less than 1, or it is greater than 5, in which case our script, this piece of code, which is generating random number, this piece of code which is generating random number, is incorrect. So what are we going to do here? We are going to cast that we are going to cast that and print that incorrect. And print that incorrect number. So that is an integer. So I am going to cast that to be of type, to cast that to be of type and varchar. Maybe 4. Okay. So let's execute this script. So if we execute this script, now it should never end, because I am confident this piece of script here is going to always, because I am confident this piece of script here is going to always generate a number between 1 and 5. It is never going to be less than 1 or greater than 5. And what I want to do is, after we print, we want to break out of the loop. We want to break out of the loop. Okay, so if it comes here, we know for sure it prints error message. It prints error message. And it breaks out of this while loop. If it is not coming out of that while loop, then we know for sure it is always going to generate numbers between 1 and 5. A quick test, basically. So I execute that. So I execute that. Look at that. Look at that. It is executing query. This is executing query. It is still executing. It is more than 15 seconds, 16 seconds. Now, so if I go to the messages, look at this. It is printing those numbers. And it is never going to end. We have to cancel that at some point of time. Look at this. It is still executing. Let me cancel that. Okay, and if you look at these numbers, these always will be between 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can see here 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 1. Basically, okay. Now, just to make this a little bit interesting, I am going to say here at random is greater than or equal to 5. Greater than or equal to 5. Now, if we execute this, look at that, we get. So now if we execute this, look at that, we get 3, 4, 2, 5. At some point of time it ended. Okay, now let me execute that. Three, 1, 2, 4, 4, 5, and then error, and then error. Okay, so it is working. It is only generating the numbers. It is only generating the numbers between 1 and 5. So our script is working as expected. So we have just seen how to generate random numbers between a given range. We are declaring two variables. Initializing them to 1 and 5, and this is simple piece of code, and this is simple piece of code which generates random number between a given range. Okay, if we have understood that, the rest of the script should be very straightforward. So to insert data into TBL product sales table, we need values for product ID, unit price, and quantity sold. All of them of type integers. Okay. So I have created two variables. So I have created two variables. Upper limit for product ID, lower limit for product ID. Lower limit product ID. Now the lower limit for product ID is going to be 1, and upper limit for product ID is going to be 8,500. You can make it 10,000 if you want, but I have just chosen 8,500 because when I do a left join, if I basically want to use this for the next video session to demonstrate the performance of subqueries and joins. Okay, so I don't want all the products in TBL product sales table. So I'm going to have 500 of them, 5 of 5. So I'm going to have 1500 of them not present in TBL product sales table. Okay, and the unit price is going to be number between 1 and 10. Between 1 and 100, or it can be 1 and 10. It is up to you. And the same is the quantity, and same is this, and same is the quantity. Quantity is again 1 and 10. Okay, so these all are declaration, and so these all are declaration of variable and initializing them. And finally what we are doing, we are having a while loop. We are having a while loop here, which starts at 1 and loop through 15,000. Loop through 15,000 times. So we are going to have 15,000 records inserted. And obviously what is this script doing here? It is generating a random product ID, random product unit price, random quantity sold. It is exactly the same thing that we have seen how to generate, just now, how to generate a random numbers. Okay, and then we are inserting those and then we are inserting those values into this table, and we are printing the counter, incrementing the counter by 1. Okay, so let's execute this script. And see if it inserts 15,000 rows. So execute this. executing query. So in the message you should see still executing, query executed successfully. So scroll down. So 14,999, 14,998, 14,999, 15,000. So now if we go back to the table, we should see 10,000 record in products and 15,000 record in TBL product sales table. So execute them. So 10,000 product in products table and 15,000 records in TBL product sales table. So if you look at the TBL product sales, table, we have product ID. So we have product ID, unit price, and quantity sold. Some random numbers. Okay, so we have seen now how to insert 10,000 and 15,000 rows, but if you want, you can even insert 1 million, 2 million rows. All you have to change is the number. All you have to change is the number for the while loop. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.